travel if there is no way to travel at this point? Join us today for this very interesting discussion on Globetrotter books, an activity book that will allow you to explore the world right at your home. This coffee break with our special guest will also give you a glimpse on how you can work on your passion and explore your creative side. It's really never too late to do what you love.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Break with Urbana. I'm having my virtual coffee break right now with my friend. Actually, I haven't seen her in how many years? 7 years?
7 years,
Around
yes.
6 years. Yeah, I haven't seen
yes.
her for 7 years. And Marisha is actually an editor and a writer, and she has done a lot of work with the United Nations and Asian Development Bank. And her forte is water. So she has a lot of work with the International Water Management Institute. And she's here right now. We're not going to talk much about the water related issues, but we're going to talk more about her very interesting project right now, which is the Globetrotter books. And maybe we will start with asking her about her background and how she got interested into writing and working in international development. So hi Marisha, how are you?
Hi, Teresa.
How are
I'm
you?
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Very well. Yeah.
You're right now in Bangkok, right?
I am right. Yes, I've been living in Bangkok for 7 years now, and so I am in Bangkok, and I'm in the midst of a move. Actually, I'm about to move back to Canada.
Yeah. So you graduated with a journalism background, or
No,
was
I have
environmental science, right? I
That's
remember
right.
that.
That's right. I have actually 2 masters, one in environmental science and one in international development.
Yeah, but you have a skill in writing. That's why you got into all this editorial jobs and writing. And your first job was what was your first job in international development? Was it with EMI?
No. So in water, I mean, so here in Asia, the first one that I did, I think, was with the Japan Water Forum in Tokyo. That was how I first started in the water community here. And I had worked here in Bangkok with the UN in sustainable development, but then specifically in water, the first one was with the Japan Water Forum. And the Asia Pacific Water Forum, and I worked with them for 3 years. Yeah.
That's where we met.
That's where we met, and then did quite a bit of work with ADB, with the Asian Development Bank, and then with FAO with the UN, and with different other international organizations, and with EMI in Colombo. I recently worked with them on their strategic plan, their 5-year strategic plan for the next 5 years. So, yeah.
What got you interested into the environment and water side of development?
Well, as a Canadian, so it's interesting actually, because my first summer job when I was 19 years old, from after my first year of university, I was at McGill, and I was looking for a summer job that summer, and my first summer job was working with the whale watching boats out in the St. Lawrence River. And I had landed a job working with those scientists and taking people out onto the water to see the whales. And it was very peculiar because I was enrolled in a sociology program, a major in sociology. And then I just had developed such a passion for the environment and particularly water and ecosystems and sustainable development. And then when I came back from that first summer job, I enrolled into at the time, there was only a minor program in environmental studies at McGill University. And that's how I started, and then I went on and did a master's in environmental science. At another university in Canada, but in Montreal. But so that was how I first, my passion for water began on the St. Lawrence River and with the whales out in the St. Lawrence River.
And then you studied more on environmental science, and you went into the integrated water resources management.
Yes.
And what's really interesting with Marisha is that she's not just an editor, like when you hire sometimes editor or manuscript editors, sometimes they don't have the background on environmental science. They're really English majors who try to um, edit your work to make it much more readable or understandable. But Marisha has the background. That's why I think she was one of our favorite editors because
Aww.
she knows what she does, and she knows that if this term does not really fit into one sentence, and that's not exactly the term that you're using, a technical term, she knows. So she's really good, and she has
Thank
edited a
you.
lot of she has edited a lot of work for Narbo, right? Narbo.
Yeah, so with the
Narbo
network
is the network
network
of
Asian River Basin
yeah
organizations.
yes
So yes, I worked with NARBO. Love NARBO, and a lot. Yeah, so a lot of the groups here around Asia. I've been in Asia for 15 years, so I've worked with a lot of the water community here in throughout the region. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how did you first? So you first worked for the Japan Water Forum, and then you fell in love with Asia now, and then you just
Yes,
stayed. you,
deeply.
you just stayed in. You just stayed in Asia, and then okay, no,
Mm,
this is where I belong. But
yeah.
yeah. So I did mention earlier that you're currently working on the Globetrotter book, which I actually found very interesting, especially now that we're here in the pandemic and we can't travel.
Yeah.
So how did this idea of a Globetrotter book
Yeah.
develop?
Yeah.
Can you
So I
start
can
with
even
this?
like I have let me show them to you. I have them here. This is the Tokyo one, the Paris one. I have one on
Mm.
Paris, one on New York,
I like the New York and Tokyo.
Tokyo, and I have
Yeah.
as well, I have Bangkok. And so these are children's books. They're children's
Mm-hmm.
activity books for children aged 6 to 12 years old. The idea is for them to be able to discover a city, discover a new culture, and new places by having fun, doing puzzles and games within the pages of the book. So so each page has a different activity that's proposed that
Oh,
and all you need
nice.
is a pen or paper, a pen or pencil and crayons, and you can do the activities in the book. And the idea came because I have a son. I have he's now 16 years old, a big boy now. But several years back, we were traveling in the U.S. and visiting some of the national parks, Yellowstone and Grand Teton, these beautiful parks out west in the U.S. And they give an activity book for the kids to fill out and to learn while they're discovering the park on their own terms, right? These are the activities that are geared towards that age group. And then when I came back to Bangkok, I had an epiphany, and I thought, why isn't there this for like every place I go to with my son? Because I always get frustrated because I find that there's not much for young children traveling to support their discovery. And so I thought, well, I'll try it.
Why
I've been
not?
doing reports for decades. I've been doing reports. Why can't I just try it? I'll try it. And so it was a huge learning curve, however, because I had to figure out so many things, where to source the images and copyright issues, and then it's one thing to publish them, then it's how to get them to the market, right? How do you distribute them? How do you get so anyway? So it took years, but I figured it out one step at a time, and now they're sold in bookstores here in Thailand. They're sold in bookstores. They're sold now. They've just reached the European market. The French versions are sold in France and Belgium. They're sold in North America and Canada. They're available on Amazon. So that was how the adventure started. And now I'm really enthused by this, and this is what like my passion at this point is doing more titles. I've got right now, I'm working on Singapore as well as Bali. Yeah, so the next two will be Singapore and Bali.
So the activity books have not just the, like the puzzles or the, the maze and stuff like that, finding the
Yeah.
words,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I saw in the New York booklet, it has the buildings,
It has
the
building,
different
yeah.
buildings.
So I mean, the idea is to discover the culture, the language for some, like
Mm-hmm.
the Bangkok one has a few Thai, with some simple words.
Okay.
The
Oh,
history, there's always a bit on history.
that's
There's
cool.
also often a page on food, and so see, this is the
Yeah,
page on food for Bangkok,
yeah,
and the geography, the main
yeah, yeah.
so maybe some stories with regards to local stories, some of
Mm-hmm.
the things that kids will see
Yeah.
when they're walking around the city. And actually the thing is now, because we can't travel, the thing is you don't need to be in the city to be able to have fun with these
Yeah.
books. You can do
Yeah.
the research online, and you can discover the city even though you're not physically taking the plane and going to the city. So the books are
Mm-hmm.
designed in such a way that you don't have to be in the city. And actually right now, the idea is to try to travel differently, since we
Mm-hmm.
cannot get onto planes. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it's really important for kids to still have expanded horizons, despite, and especially this generation, even more so now, this
Yeah.
COVID generation, they
Mm-hmm.
still have to learn about the world and
Yeah.
discover new places and new cultures,
Yeah.
and so, why not use my Globetrotter book to be able to
Mm-hmm.
to expand your child's horizons?
So you have that available as a hard copy in the bookstores, but do you also have
Yes.
an online version of that, and can
No,
can it be
no,
downloadable?
no,
Okay.
no, no. I don't have an online version, and
Yeah.
that's a very deliberate choice at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because I had always, as all parents I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
can attest to it, we're always
Yeah.
struggling with turning the computers and the screens off, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and taking our children away from the screens.
Yeah.
So for me, traveling was always about leaving the iPhone and the iPad, and we
Yeah.
leave that at
Yeah.
home, and this will be like unplug time during
Mm-hmm.
the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because we don't have access to the SIM cards when we're traveling, or so it was always so that was a very deliberate choice, was not to
Mm-hmm.
provide them online. I'm not saying I'm never going to, but I'm at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
also that's not my craft. I don't know how to produce online
Yeah.
material, so I know how to do
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, plus
So
when
that's,
you're traveling, also it's difficult for the kids to have the iPad right in front of their faces
yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It would be nice, and
It's
like what I've noticed with some of the kids that who are always in front of the iPad or the iPhone or the smartphones that their parents said. There's there's not, I don't have a kid, but I've noticed some parents and some kids who are always in front of that. They're the what do you call that? Their development, their writing
mhm,
development is much slower, I think.
yeah.
They
Literacy. Well, the
uh
literacy
yeah.
is so. I mean, there are a whole
They,
bunch of studies
yeah.
on what reading can do for the
Mhm.
brain, for the cognitive skills, for the. I mean, and so there's nothing but benefits from reading,
Mhm. Yeah.
for children.
I'm very curious. How do you think? Why is it so important to include culture in those books, and why is it important for travelers to learn about that? Of course, we know the answer, but then I want your perspective on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Well,
you know, especially why should we start it young when you're traveling?
yeah. So, I mean, for me personally,
Mm.
I think it's super important for my child to be in contact and in presence of different cultures, because I think that that's the only way that future generations can manage this planet properly, is if we're informed about what another culture is, and not scared of the other, of the different, of the. So that for me personally has always been one of my parenting objectives. And then I think that, you know, it's super important for kids to have the curiosity about their world. The world is a vast, diverse, extraordinary place. And so but not to be scared of it, not to be scared of the difference. And so in order not to be scared, if you understand it, then that really helps understand and appreciate and at least feel comfortable in some measure with different cultures. So I think it's really, really important. For me, it's critical.
I just want to ask about, I'm going back to the New York because I was really curious with the design, with the buildings, because I was just on the phone with one of my good friends, the architect that I was talking to you about before we went online. I told you that I told her that one of my favorite buildings in New York, for you, you know, a lot of people are surprised that my most favorite, my top one, is the Flatiron Building.
Yes.
And she said that, why that? Why not the Chrysler? Because everyone loves the Chrysler. Because, you know, that's arresting. It's very arresting, right? Like the Chrysler Building. But I told her, no, there's something about the Flatiron that I really like, because it occupies a really small space. It's a triangle. But they were able to make use of that space, and that building for me is my favorite, because and it reminds me of Europe. That's the only place in New York that reminds me of Europe. That one. So maybe I think that's why I like it, because I have that the detail of the Baroque, like the Romanesque kind of at the top of the Flatiron. So that's why I was looking at your New York.
So I don't have the Flatiron, but I do have a page here with the different landmarks, the different buildings, and so here the activity is what famous New York City landmark am I, and then you know, I ask questions and you have to identify which one of the buildings that I'm asking the question about. So and then another feature of the books is that at the end after you've done the activities, and the activities also are geared for 6 to 12, so there are, you know, activities that are easier, coloring and matching, and for younger kids, and then activities that are harder, like that New York landmark page where you're asking questions, and that do require, you know, that are for kids who's a bit older. And then at the end of the book, you have to crack a code and find that will take you to a PDF. Actually, it's to a link. It'll give you a link where you go to print the seal on the certificate. You get your personalized certificate, and then you'll print your seal of your New York City seal, and then you can cut the page out and frame it, and you can collect them. Every one of the books has the certificate at the end, so it gives
nice.
added motivation for the kids to.
That's nice. I would like to buy one.
Yes, well, you can get one on Amazon.
Because, you know, like, I'm bored here at home.
Well, and you know what? So I've had a lot of feedback from parents who've said, I learned so much. And the thing is, I learned so much myself doing these books, because these are actually, I mean, I did not choose these cities randomly. I've lived in these 4 cities. Right? I started with these cities because these are cities that I know better. But I, even though I had lived in these cities several years in each city, I still learned a lot. I just researching for the contents of the books, I learned so much about these cities as well. So parents learn and adults learn a lot from doing the activities in the books, actually.
True. I've been living here for how many years, and there are still things that I discover, like in my area. Like, I didn't know that there's this famous bake shop in a very small town near me. So we biked there, and we had a cake, and my friend, you know, this bake shop, they supply everywhere in the Netherlands. And I said, huh? This small bake shop? And I said, yeah,
Wow.
this supplies. They have like a different factory for the bigger cakes, for the bigger bulk
Yeah, sure,
orders.
sure.
But
Yeah,
it's just very small bake shop in a small town, in a very small town. So I was like,
yeah.
really? And their cakes are really much better than the cakes that I've tasted in the big city center.
Really?
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess they're really the best supplier. Yeah, but yeah, so now I'm like, you know, like I'm thinking of also doing something like that. No, because I remember when I was a child, we had this I forgot the name, but you know, like where you collect stickers,
Mm,
and then you stick, you know, you have like the shape of the bird or the animal or whatever, and then it says there, for example, that's how I learned about the puffer fish,
yeah,
about the armadillo, and,
yeah,
and all those things. So you collect the stickers, and then you have to
yes.
look for the animal, and
Mm,
then there's a description on the side.
mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
like just an outline. So now I'm like thinking,
yeah,
maybe I should do something like that, but on the architecture side,
yeah. Good
right?
idea.
That would be, yeah.
Mm.
But so what is so you've worked, you have now Tokyo, Paris, Bangkok, and New York,
In New York,
and
yeah.
then you're
And
working
now
on Singapore, and
I'm
then
working on
are you,
Singapore and
yeah,
Bali.
so, oh, nice. I want the Bali.
Mm, I know. Who doesn't?
So yeah, I know. So Bali, and then are you going? What else? Or which cities are you still thinking of doing?
Well, I can go infinite here. So I've done also, I have in French, I have Quebec and Montreal. That's not translated
Okay.
into English yet, but I do also have in French, Quebec and
So
Montreal.
the books
And
are. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so we'll see. I will see as opportunities arise, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping to, I would like to do Hong Kong. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
do Angkor Wat in
Oh,
Cambodia.
nice.
It's not necessarily only cities, but destinations.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, London, Rome, in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other cities, Prague. There's so many of them that I'd love to do.
Why
So
don't
we'll
you
see.
come visit me and then you do Rotterdam?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
I'll need a guide
yeah.
for sure too.
I'll be your guide. I'll be your guide.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. That will
Yes.
be
Yeah.
nice. We'll talk more about Pete Blom and the architects. But your Globetrotter book would be will be very much into architecture if you go with.
Yes. If you- well,
Yeah.
architecture is is a feature of us of a
Mhm.
discovering a city. So for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
For sure.
So you're moving back to Canada,
Canada to Montreal.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and you're still going to continue with this
Oh,
Globetrotter book.
for
What
sure.
other
For sure.
projects are you working on aside from the Globetrotter books? Are you
So I often still work with the Japanese some different Japanese clients,
mm-hmm,
so I still do work occasionally with the Japanese. I'd love to
mm-hmm.
do some more work with ADB.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see as opportunities arise. I mean, for sure, this year is a bit of an
Yeah.
off year
Oh
for
yeah.
everybody, but we'll see. We'll see how things play
Yeah.
out, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
an off
let's.
year. It's an off year for everyone, but I think it's an opportunity for Globetrotter books, for more
Yes.
Globetrot. You know,
Yes.
your creative juices would be
Yes.
coming out
Yes.
and producing this.
Yes, so
Yeah.
actually the Singapore and Bali, when we started, because we did have a stay-at-home order as well in Bangkok, and we were home for close to 2 months. And so when we went into that stay-at-home mode, I thought, all right, I want to make sure that by the end of it, I have something to show for it. I just don't want to be putzing around YouTube or, during this time. So I told myself I want to do at least, I want to do a book. I want, and that will be my COVID book, right?
Yeah,
and actually having time to do two.
Yeah. I think everyone is has started to become much more creative during this time, because we're all staying at home, and we're so while we're working on our own jobs, we're also thinking of other creative outlets, because there's nothing else to do. That's why I think
and you want to have something to show for it. You want to have have an objective and be able to say, well, I achieved it. This is what I achieved, not just to be floating around, So whatever it was.
I like that. So we're now going on towards the end of the interview. I just want to know, so maybe you can give advice to those people who are just staying at home and they have other skills. What do you think should they do?
Wow. Well, so, here's, for instance, I'll give you a story. My son, who's 16 years old, when he had 5 weeks off in the middle of this, and then, he went back to virtual online, but because he was in a special year where they were supposed to have, in the third trimester, they were supposed to have exams, and so there was no school planned anyways, no classes planned. And so they cobbled together, the school was amazing, and cobbled together a couple of classes, but so he had about 3 hours of classes a week for 2 months after those 5 weeks off. And so I said to him, you have to fix an objective, whatever it is, whether it's you want bigger muscles or you want to whatever, but pick one objective and then achieve that objective so that you have something to show for it by the end of it. And he chose to do Polish because my father was Polish. And so and my son's already trilingual. He's French, English, Japanese. And so he chose to do Polish. He asked me to find him a Polish tutor. And now he's able to carry on a little, very basic, but he achieved that during his
So you can speak to him in
Polish.
I
don't.
I don't.
A few words here and there. I'm not very good at languages, but my son
is much better than you now.
So unfortunately my father has passed, so he won't be able to speak with my father, but I mean it is part of his heritage. So that's what he wanted to do, and that's what my only learning from this is not even advice, but is that it does help to pick an objective and then achieve it. And this is the opportunity, since we can't travel, since we can't move around as much, since we're stuck at home. Do the thing that you've always wanted to do, and just do it. Just do it one piece at a time. One piece that I've been asked, how do you do this? The book. I mean, a lot of people out there want to write a book, and I say it's just one word at a time. Just start it. The first drafts you'll throw away, but the more you do it, it's like, and I always use this image of the snowball at the top of the mountain. At the beginning, it's, this little puny thing. And then the more it rolls down the hill and picks up snow and picks up volume and weight and speed, and it'll end up generating its own momentum and going down the hill on its own. But at first it's hard. You just have to push and push and push and push. And there are days, and you have to be just disciplined, regular about it, and make sure that you work on it every day or every other day, or just fix yourself an objective like that you're gonna just and it's some days that you're gonna put 2 words down, other days you'll have 3 pages by the end of the day. So it really, it's just regular discipline. Just do it and keep at it. Just persevere, plow through it, and then at some point the momentum will pick up and it'll just generate its own energy and roll down the hill on its own.
It's a very good advice. Children, listen to that. No, it's true. I think even for me, so for everyone, young planners, young graduates, young children, and everyone, I think. So especially at this time where you feel like everything is uncertain.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to have a schedule. That's one thing. But then I also think that you have to have a schedule. You have to have a goal. But if there are really times that you don't feel like it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because if you force yourself and pressure yourself also, it's not going to work.
Yes, you're gonna have off days, and you're gonna have days
you're
where
really
you're
going to have off.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I mean, that's not yes, because then
Healthy.
you can't no, that's not healthy, because then you become like, then you're banging yourself against the wall, and that's not good either. Yeah.
And I think everyone now is more understanding of each of our situations, especially at work. If you're becoming a little bit slow, I think people will understand a bit. But not every day. Okay, you have to have a deadline too.
Yes.
So, what would be your, like you've already given that advice for you, for those who want to work on what you do, editorial work and international development, what's your advice to those who are into this field, who want to work in, let's say with Japan Water Agency, or those agencies, if you're also a graduate of environmental science, or this science background, but you have a skill on editing and writing, what's your advice to those kids out there?
I think for me, it has always been my network. Just work your network, just contact people, don't be shy, don't hold back, don't say I don't want to bother them, or they can't help me. You never know. Don't be shy, don't be too aggressive either, but so pretty much every single job I've had, I think, has been through word of mouth, through someone introducing me, it's been that's how my whole career has been through my networks. So the network is critical. Entertain your network, keep it, stay in touch with people, even that you've met at a conference, and that's the other thing is meet people. You have to be out there and meeting people. So now, of course, there are Zoom conferences, and there are opportunities still to meet people through online, but it is so important, because applying on a job and sending in a CV, in my experience, some people manage to get a job like that, but I've never been able to. I've never landed a job from sending in a CV. Never. So that is my single best piece of advice. Be working your network. Work your network.
Work your network.
Thank you so much. Through LinkedIn and through there's so different Facebook, and there's with social media now, that is also important.
Thank you so much, Marisha, and
thank you.
And obviously we'll be in touch much more. And good luck with the Globetrotter book.
Thank you for this opportunity to have me present them. I'm very happy.
Of course. I'm so glad to help, and I'm also happy that you have allowed us to be part of your Globetrotter journey.
Thank you. Happy Globetrotting.
Happy Globetrotting. So that's Marisha, everyone, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.